So I wanted to make a quick video on how I shave fake fur for making fursuits. So I'm using a shaver that uses something called an A5 blade system. So that means that it takes these interchangeable blades, and there's different makers and manufacturers of the blades and the shavers. So Andis is a really popular one. Wall and a couple of other companies make shavers and blades as well. Artero primarily makes blades, and blades come really in a couple of different styles. So when you're looking at a blade, if it's a ceramic blade, it will have a white part to the blade versus this one is a steel blade. The ceramic blades tend to stay cool when you're cutting with them. You still have to oil them, but if you let the blade get too hot, then it will become dull. I've definitely ruined quite a few blades by letting it become too hot, which is easy to do when you're deep in the process of shaving a head. So the blades come in different depths or different lengths. So this is a 3 3/4 FC. FC means finishing cut, which is supposed to mean like a finer cut to it. And then this is a 10, and this is 1.5 millimeter. But the higher the number, the shorter the cut it makes. The difference between the Artero blade and the Andis blades is pretty significant. If you want a high quality result and you want to save time, this is the thing to do. Just go for Artero. It's an extra $5 or $10 per blade. You can get your steel blades sharpened. So you can take this blade and, because dog groomers need to get their blades sharpened, you can get blades sharpened for like $10 a blade. So far, my experience has been that the ceramic Arteros are pretty resilient. So I'll show you how I use this and how well it works. So when you're shaving, you need to keep the blade cool and you need to keep it oiled. You can buy, Andis makes a spray, which is, it's both a coolant and a lubricant. So what I do is I spray the blade every couple of minutes, and I try to keep it cool. I'll also touch it and see if it's getting hot. If it's getting hot, I'll either stop or I'll cool it off by putting it in front of a fan. The ideal scenario is you have multiple blades and you're just swapping them out, multiple blades of the same depth, and you're swapping them out to keep them cool so they don't ever get too hot. So shave it, run it, and what I'm able to do with the Artero blades is I can pretty much make 2 passes and get a good clean cut. So I'm going to cut the fur grain, or the fur grain is going this way. If you cut with the grain, so if I were to go ahead and cut the fur, now the fur is facing this way. If I cut it this way, I will get a 7F cut depth. I'll get the 3 millimeters. If I cut it against the grain, so again, the grain, the fur hairs are pointing this way. If I cut it this way, it will drop a blade depth. So I will get effectively an 8 or a 9. I think I'll get a 9 is what I'll get. When I'm cutting fur, generally speaking, if I'm trying to do it as quickly as possible, I will cut across the grain and do multiple passes. So this is Big Z half shag. And if you watch, this is like cutting, it's just amazing. And this blade is pretty old at this point. I've used this to shave 5 heads now and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you can see how easily it just cuts through the fur. Now, when I do a second pass, it'll still take some off, but at this point, I'm gonna get to the point where I'm at a place where I need to be finishing this and trying to get a smooth cut. When I'm cutting, I'm holding the blade flat against the fur, and I'm trying to overlap it like you would if you were vacuuming or mowing a lawn. So you can kind of see, I'm not getting a lot of extra depth at this point. I've cut this down, or a lot of extra fur at this point. If I want this to be smooth, like this is pretty smooth. This would look pretty good. If I want it to be really smooth, this is a specialized brush for making teddy bears. You can find these on AliExpress. They're like $2. What I will do is I will then brush, and my goal is to bring up all of the fur that I have missed in my first initial cutting so that I get a really nice smooth result. And I'll do another pass. And this is how I cut fur. I generally will only cut fur like this on a table if I'm working on something where I need the fur pre-cut. Most of my shaving is done on the head, so I prefer to cut my fursuit heads, or to shave them or down to a 7 is what I use for my finishing cut. And I'll generally shave in all different directions. But this is how I shave fur. You should always wear a mask when you're shaving fur. I would have a vacuum running typically while I'm doing this and sucking all of this up. I also have an air filter running in the room I'm at, so that all these microplastics are sucked into a fine air filter as quickly as I can, so I avoid breathing them. So anyways, this is how I shave fur. If you're struggling with how to shave fur, these are the tricks and the secrets that I've learned on how to do this.